I've wanted to do this video for quite some time. What you're about to see is an incredible collection of images that were first published online around 10 years ago. Now, disclaimer, they're not my images. I'll reference who they belong to, where they were published, and I'll put a link to the image set in the description below. And I also believe that this whole area has been cleared as well, which obviously is a shame. But strap yourself in, put the kettle on. I think you're going to enjoy this one. Okay, so the photographs you're about to see are from the photo sharing website Flickr. The vast majority are from a user on there named Scrab, S-C-R-A-W-B. If you Google his name and put Flickr next to it, you'll find thousands of photographs of this place. Absolutely amazing collection of images, stunning stuff. And a few of the photographs are also from a user called Lando2008 at yahoo.com. So bash that into Google with Flickr next to it, F-L-I-C-K-R. Mostly the interior photographs and a few of the exterior ones. So, yeah, let's get started then. Okay then, so let's get this kicked off and have a look at the first vehicle. It's this magnificent old RTE Outside Broadcasts Ford Transit van. Wonderful old thing. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, RTE is the Irish version of the BBC. It's the state broadcaster. It stands for Radio Telefís Éireann. And yeah, I'd imagine back in the 80s, they would have had a fleet of these vans roving up and down the country with reporters on news events or whatever they were covering. According to the caption on this image, it fired up straight away thanks to the York diesel engine that it had, which is quite remarkable considering, I mean, the vehicle was probably at that time 25 odd years old. The image was published on here, I think, in April 2009. And as I said, since this place has been completely cleared as far as I know, but it would be nice to think that maybe that ended up in a museum or preserved. It'd be a shame if that was scrapped. So I did a little Google image search and I had a look on the RTE Archives website, which is a fantastic resource anyway, but I couldn't find any pictures of their Ford Transit outside broadcast vans. According to one of the comments, though, on this particular photograph, that registration is a Dublin registration. I think it's between 1979 and 1980, so actually a little bit older than I originally thought. Up next, then, is this absolutely wonderful Series 2 Austin Allegro dating from the mid-1970s in a rather fetching shade of greeny yellow, which is just brilliant, isn't it? Very much of its time, of course. It doesn't look to have suffered too badly from the old dreaded tin worm, which a lot of 70s British cars did. And I think this site was located on a bog. So, yeah, even more kudos to whoever screwed that particular Allegro together. He seems to have done a pretty good job on that one. Yeah, it is knackered, as you can see, but rust-wise doesn't look too bad. I did a little bit of research on export Austin Allegros, and yeah, they were exported all around the world and to different parts of Europe. Often, I think, and mostly in kit form, so that the associate company in whichever country would screw them and bolt them together. But as far as I know, in an Irish context, they were loaded onto a ship and sold complete and fully intact here in dealerships that looked an awful lot similar to the UK counterparts. Probably unsurprising given the historical links and connections between the UK and Ireland. There were a few other Allegros in this yard apparently. There was a Series 3 and I think 2 other Series 2 cars. Just look at this incredibly rusty Alfa Sud Sprint that was presumably stored at the bottom of the sea. I've never seen a car as rusty as this. It does look as though the original colour was perhaps silver, and maybe it was sanded back and hastily resprayed at some point in its life. Maybe that would explain why it went so incredibly rusty. This picture again around 2009, 2010. So the car at that stage was probably about 25, maybe at a stretch 30 years old. And it's easily the rustiest thing in this yard, without a shadow of a doubt. It looks like the glass and the plastics have gone rusty, it's that bad. Up next is this astonishingly rare Talbot Tagora. Now, for people like me who are avidly into rubbish old cars, this is something of a holy grail. There are so incredibly few of these cars left. I can't imagine any survive here in Ireland, and I know that in the UK, according to howmanyleft.co.uk, there are 8 as of 2021 that are currently SORNed, statutory off-road notice, and one that is currently licensed for use on the road in the United Kingdom. I had a quick look on Facebook Marketplace in France, and I think there was only 2 for sale over there that I could find as well. This particular example, as you can see, is completely knackered with the roof caved in and the body suffering from pretty extensive corrosion. Fascinatingly, one of the people who've commented on the pictures seems to recognise the car and is wondering whether it was his father's from about 25 years ago. Fascinating. I wonder if it was. When did you last see one of these on the road? A Fiat Regatta. There were a few of them in this yard, and despite their well-known corrosion issues, none of them actually look all that bad. Fascinatingly, with regards to this one on screen at the moment, it may have been saved, according to one of the comments here, but that comment is 12 years old, so I have no way of verifying it. Note the posh headlamp wipers, though. Next up is this wonderful old Audi 80. I can't ever remember seeing one as old as this. I think that registration plate dates back to around 1973, 1974. Thankfully, due to the foliage around it, I think it was in pretty good condition when it was discovered. And it was purchased, fully restored, and is back on the road. What brilliant news that is. Moving on, we have 2 Fiat Chromas. These are particularly rare old Italian saloons. There's 2 of them in this yard. Well, there was 2 of them in this yard. I would imagine both of them are long gone at this stage. Very interestingly and very oddly, they're showing a propensity to rust in rather strange places. Look at that boot lid kind of curvature seam area there at the side. Both of them have gone in that area. Very, very odd, considering I don't think there's an actual joint there. That's just a piece of sheet metal that's been curved to fit the body shape. Very odd indeed. This Austin Montego had clearly seen better days, the only salvageable items appearing to be maybe the rear light clusters and the rear bumper. May have been quite a sought-after model back in the day with its 2-litre petrol engine. That registration plate, I popped it into the DVLA website, and it's untaxed since the 1st of February 1996. Yes, that is an original right-hand drive, Irish registered FSO Polonez. As with the Talbot Tagora discussed earlier on, this is something of a holy grail when it comes to terrible old cars. There are very, very few left in the United Kingdom, so I would imagine 0 left here in Ireland. And of course, this one was scrapped. As you can see, it was being piggybacked to the baler with a forklift. What a shame. Continuing the theme of rather rare Italian cars are these 2 Lancia Dedras. They shared the same floor pan as the Alfa 155 and the Fiat Tempra. I can only imagine what these 2 would have gone for, either as whole or in parts. They are very, very rare cars and rather sought after nowadays as well. Something of a forgotten Lancia. Time then for a couple of old British motors. We have an old Austin Maestro here. I believe this dates from around 1984-85, judging by the registration, I think. So potentially may have had the very odd, but rather futuristic talking dashboard, which of course is extremely rare if you're looking for one nowadays. Here we have what I believe to have been the only Austin Maxi in the yard. It's an exceptionally early on a J-plate Mark II with the facelifted grille, and I think the changes to the gearbox which differentiated them from the Mark I. Sadly, this is the only image of this car. I did a bit of research and put the registration number into the DVLA website, and it had been untaxed since the 1st of October 1990. Here at Crap Car Collective, we love big, floaty old spaceship Citroen saloons, which is exactly what this Citroen XM was. I would hazard a guess it was scrapped. I can't check the registration plate because it's blurred out, but obviously this whole yard was cleared, so it's likely that it was probably sent to the baler, which is an awful shame considering it looked really, really clean and rather straight. Considering this Rover 800 had been clearly dragged from a hedge, it doesn't look in too bad a condition, although I do dread to think what the underside would have looked like. Personally, I much prefer the fastback model, although the saloon still looks pretty classy, and amazingly this one hadn't suffered from the dreaded dashboard binnacle lift, which afflicted most of them. In further tales of Rover woe, here is Hyacinth and Richard's Rover 200. There are also a few of Onslow's Cortinas knocking about as well. Next up, we're heading behind the Iron Curtain with these two fantastic Skoda Favorites. The Favorit was Skoda's first ever attempt at a front-wheel drive car, and it was pretty successful and sold well all across Europe. Designed by Bertone, I think they look absolutely fantastic still after all these years. Staying well and truly in Soviet territory, here is an old Lada Samara. I believe the Samara was an attempt by Lada to modernise their range and introduce a practical and rather more stylish 5-door family hatchback. It failed. Naturally though, I'd love one. Big old Citroens aren't the only French cars that we like here on Crap Car Collective. We also love old Renaults too. Here we have an old Renault 25 which looks completely knackered and was bailed. We also have a Renault Fuego. Look at that. Incredibly stylish. We have a Renault 14 and a Renault 20. Each of them exceedingly rare nowadays. Here we have a few of my all-time motoring favourites. Protons. I absolutely love these old things simply because they're pretty rubbish. They're effectively Mitsubishis that have been rebadged, so they're mechanically incredibly reliable but often suffer from the dreaded rust. Up until recently, I had my doubts as to whether these were actually sold in Ireland. Or whether people just imported a few of them, because I've never come across any over here myself. But I did stumble across on Google Street View an old signpost in the middle of Dublin for an old Proton dealership, and it looked like it dated to around the early 1990s, which would suggest that they were sold over here. Just presumably they either died very quickly or didn't sell too many of them. If anybody knows, leave a comment. I'd love to find out. Last but not least is this magnificent Seat Malaga. I had a look on the howmanyleft.co.uk website, and there are 10 left registered in the UK with 0 sawned, so that's a tiny population, and I would be very, very surprised if there are any left here in Ireland, of course. I particularly love that Brutalist dashboard, and as with a lot of the cars in this yard, it looks quite restorable, doesn't it? Quite clean, considering its age. At the time, it would have been just over 20 years old. Yeah, it's just a crying shame that so many very decent cars and so many good car parts were lost when this place was cleared. I hope you enjoyed that delve into what is a wonderful photographic archive. I've posted the links to both photo sets in the description below, so as I said earlier on, pop the kettle on and make sure you haven't got anything to do for the foreseeable future, because it's going to take you quite a while to get through them, but hopefully you'll enjoy it. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you'd like to help me keep any of these terrible old wrecks on the road, you can do. The link to my Patreon is in the description below. You also get a free Crap Car Collective window sticker. Not bad.